right, Algebra 1, the moment you guys have been waiting for. All year, we have memorized our square and cube roots, all to prepare for this lesson. So you're welcome. I hope you remember those. Here we go. We're on lesson 11.3, and we are doing rational square roots. Our essential question is, can you find the square roots of numbers that have rational square roots? So we are going to learn how to break things up. We're going to start seeing that a square root, like the square root of a times b, can be the square root of a times the square root of b. So we're going to work together in this lesson and give it all we've got. So let's look at the square root of 900. In this case, it is a perfect square. It does not have to be split up. But many of you might see that it is the square root of 9 and the square root of 100. Those are both radicals or roots that you needed to know. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 100 is 10. So the answer to this is 30. And that will make sense because if you think about 30 times 30, there are 2 zeros, and 3 times 3 is 9. Well, I wouldn't expect you to know this one. Unfortunately, you can't use your calculators on these at all. I won't know if you're using a calculator, but if you write it as a decimal, I will know, and you will not get any partial credit for that either because you can't use calculators. This one's a little hard. I would not give you one this difficult. This is saying the square root of 1,296. I wouldn't know this, and you probably wouldn't know that there is a 4 and a 9 and a 36 in here. Yeah, you probably wouldn't know that. So you know the square root of 4, you know the square root of 9, you know the square root of 36. And if I was to multiply this all together, my answer would be 36. Now, in this case, you could use a calculator and it would work out, but they're not all going to be that beautiful. All right. It looks like we're not doing the funny ones yet, so let's just enjoy where we are, because this one you should know in your head because your math teacher has made you memorize these. You know that the square root of 64 is 8, and you know that the square root of 169 is 13. So the answer to this one would be 8 over 13. The quotient property is just like the one with multiplication, except it is division. Notice that the quotient property says that if I have the square root of a over the square root of b, I can separate those just like I did with the multiplication. So we're going to start using these a ton. This whole chapter is very, very, very important. I did jump around because I wanted to go over this one. One for two reasons. First of all, this is the quotient rule. Most of you know that the square root of 64 is 8. Some of you might remember that the square root of 625 is 25. So this is why I wanted to go over it. Remember, if I have 25 squared, we can use that little trick I taught you. Anything that ends in a 5 squared will end in 25. Ooh, I knew this was a 25. Take one more than the number, 2 times 3, multiply them together, and you get 625. So what if I had 75 squared? Let's do that one. Anything with 5 squared ends in 25. One more than 7 is 8. 8 times 7 is 5625. We'll try one more, 95 squared. I know that anything that ends in a 5 squared ends in a 25. Take one more than 9. 9 times 10 is 90. So that's just a fun little trick that we did a couple times this year, and I'm hoping that you remember it. Great job, Algebra 1.